Well, I don't think that's traditionally done with the light transmissions, but that's something that I noticed that after the Unity shift, that that hadn't severed. There's a I think the I thought arises in the heart, and I think I spoke about it before. All of a sudden, I noticed one day that this I thought this, and it almost looked like a little creature, and I had dropped my awareness dropped down into the heart, and I noticed that there was this little sort of chimney or conduit that had been cut, and I noticed this little almost looked like this little kind of just this little creature was jumping up out of this chimney as if to it was going to travel all the way up its usual passageway into the intellect, and it was gone. It had been severed, and it just sort of jumped up a couple of times, looked around. Oh, there's nowhere for me to go. It fell back down and dissolved in the heart. And I seen how that was, and then I was like, okay, well, the light transmission, you're bringing a light down into the consciousness, into the pineal gland. I was like, well, why don't I just keep working on that connection where the I thought jumps up into the intellect? So that's how I started doing it. Yeah, so a few people, it seems to work better on people who are post 1000 because that seems to be the next step. But I don't see, I still do it on everyone because it's part of the pro. Why not work on it now as opposed to when they get to 1000? Just, yeah, sure. It seems to be once it's cut, that's it. It just drops back down, and it has no way of. So the eye, if you kind of put your attention on that sense of I-ness, right? Every time you say I, you feel it's not up here like you would imagine. It's actually down. Sorry, is that background in yours, Felix? I might just mute you while I'm talking. So every time that somebody says something to you that's, let's say, offensive, right? Somebody says something that's hurtful, you immediately feel it like a dagger in the chest. Oh, it hurts. That's that sense of I-ness, okay? And it's not in the mind. It's down in the heart. So what happens is the I thought, when it arises from the heart and it jumps up into the intellect, and then the intellect, grabs hold of it, and then that's where everything else follows on. But I comes before the train, all the other trains of thought that come. Yes, yes, yeah, I would agree. There does seem to be some in between for a lot of people. Yeah, it doesn't. LOC 1000 doesn't seem to be the death of the I thought. It seems to come after in what Jan Essman would talk about in Sahaja Samadhi. That death of the I thought seems to be Sahaja Samadhi. Yeah, of course. Yeah, if somebody comes along and they tell you unity consciousness is it, you pick up Ramaji's book and oh, unity consciousness, that's it, I get there, I'm done. Well, then you've put yourself into a cul-de-sac and you're stuck there and you won't progress because that's what you believe. You have a belief, and that belief comes your reality. Sure. So your own self will, Felix, will only take you so far. You know, the rest is all grace. But you need to be there. You need to turn up every day. You need to be the one that's kind of like opening up to the forces, to allow it in, to be willing to 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 let that force come down and coexist within your system. You have the free will to push it away and say, no, I don't want to do that. I want to go off and drink beer with my pals, and you know that's your choice. Whether yeah. And as well, Felix, the bliss is sort of like it's sort of a way, like a kind of an inner guidance. Like when the bliss is there, it's like, okay, I'm doing something right. And then what can happen is the bliss can start to recede, And then all of a sudden you have this mechanism in your body which is like, oh well, hang on, it's gone. What have I done wrong? Where have I gone off the path? That I've lost that bliss. And then you can make changes in your system or your practice, or yeah, you can trace it back and find out what you've done wrong. And that's the beauty of having a body. It gives us feedback. Yeah. So you still have your likes and your dislikes, and you can still, sit down and watch your favorite TV program. You still have a psychic being that's the captain of the ship, your body. That's still there. It's just that identification with the I-ness, the me-ness. What do I get out of this? That's what goes. But you still exist. You still have free will. But it's just not all about me, me, I. That just goes. Sure. Well, see, so you can have a human who has really, really high realizations, like that, and the human aspect is messy. It's unclear. There's still trauma. There's still acting out. One of the last things to go is anger. Yeah. So you can go into self-realization and unity consciousness, and you can have fear drop away pretty much straight away. Like first the my first awakening, completely fear just vanished like overnight. I was like, wow, it's gone. But there was still, I could still be triggered. I could still get angry. I could still have temper tantrums, but what happens is it just arises in the moment, and then it's gone, and there's no I thought that's going. So before you would have got angry, right? But you would have carried on this story of how dare that person speak to me? Do they know who I am? All this, and you would have been sat there thinking about this story in your head about how you've been done wrong. But now you can still get angry, right? But that story just collapses straight away. The anger just dissipates. The story just gets dropped. You can still have your moments, and that's what would happen with these gurus. They can still have anger. They can still get really, really annoyed and cuss people out of it and throw stuff. It happens. But that takes time. That human stuff needs to be worked on always. There's always something that can be refined. Yes. So what that is that's also the Divine Mother manifesting through that form of the guru. For that, and the guru might not even be aware of it. That the anger comes up, triggers the students, and then everybody learns. Yeah, it can happen, definitely. Yeah. So at a certain level, a guru at a certain level goes beyond karma. They do not have karma playing out for themselves, and they can pretty much do what they want, Felix. They don't. I mean, some do. Definitely, some do. There's definitely gurus who they mistreat students. They get involved with scandals, money, drugs, relationships with students, that kind of stuff. Go ahead. There is greed, Felix. Definitely, there's greedy people. There's greedy gurus who just want to make money and take money from people. And I have something, and I'll give it to you as long as you give me something back in return. There's definitely that plays out. Yeah, yeah. So it's like up to a particular point, right? For an individual, they're bound by karma. Everything they do, karma comes back. And the more spiritually advanced you become, the quicker your karma comes back. Almost to the point where if you lift a pen, off somebody and walk away with it, consciously knowing that you took the pen, your karma comes back almost straight away. When you're really aware. To people who aren't aware, it takes longer. But at a certain stage, I don't know exactly when or where. Um, for me, it was Brahman, and once you go into Brahman, right, it's almost like there's just nothing here for karma to there's no hook for it to hang its hat on, and your conscience. And look, it's weird when you're going to hear this coming from me, right? You don't have a conscience. So it's almost like somebody will tell you something, and it's just this story. It doesn't exist for you. It's just, but then if somebody's right in front of you, you have love for that person. You'd be the first person to help them. So it's different. It's different. But it seems to be at Brahman where that happens, Felix. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. At a certain stage, that's gone. That's just it. Just doesn't play out anymore. And it's funny. I do know of another guru, and he talks about it. And he's like, I can do whatever I want. No, you don't, because you're fully conscious. You've worked on the human aspect. There's love in your heart, so you don't do them things. But I can see how. Um, Gurus would have this realization and then just do whatever they want, and they don't feel bad about it. Look, again, there's learning from everything. Everybody learns when something happens.